In this video, we're going to go through 10 amazing items that all mid-level players are going to want, or maybe will actually need in RuneScape. So, if this sounds like something that you could find use in, then stick around and have a good listen, and check off all the items as you go along. Do you have them all? Is there some you still need to work on? Or is there some that you didn't even know about? But hopefully you find this video useful, hopefully it gets your account in a better place, as that is the goal for this video. There'll be links in the description, as always, for these sort of things, so you can find more information on the actual items, as I won't be showing you how to get all of them, but I'll be talking about the item themselves and what they are going to do to benefit you. So let's get started, shall we? So we're going to start this one out with a good old ring that I think everybody should be grabbing at some point in the game before getting the look of the dwarves. Now I could mention this one, but I feel like this is more of a high level thing, as it's very expensive for what it does. It's cool, it gives a good benefit for certain things, but I feel like this is still very expensive to be called a mid-level thing. Anyway, so we're going to be taking a look at the Ring of Fortune. Now, in the last video for low levels, I mentioned this, but I also was focusing more on the Ring of Wealth because it's a lot cheaper. This is 1 million GP, so it's a pretty great item from mid-level to grab, and it will buy for around about that as well. It buys for 1,059,000 coins, and this is incredibly useful in a lot of situations. For one, it gives you tier 3 luck, which will benefit you in places like God Wars Dungeon 2 and any bosses before that, giving you a better chance at rare drops, which is obviously a great thing to know about. It will also give you the teleports to Miscellanea and to the Grand Exchange. So if you finish the Miscellanea thing and you do manage that, you can use this to teleport directly there, and you can keep track of it. Obviously, I don't keep track of this, I really should, but then you can also use it to go to the Grand Exchange as many times as you like. It does have some combat stats, but nothing impressive. You'll probably use something else at this point, I would say, but having a Ring of Fortune for 1 million GP is definitely something you don't want to like underplay. This is really good. You want to chuck this on before you finish killing a certain boss like God Wars Dungeon 2, God Wars Dungeon 1. There'll be a wiki link for this ring in the description, and I'll tell you which bosses it actually works on, so check it out with that. But chuck this on before you get the kill, and then you can get a chance at getting a rare drop. Like it's very small, it's like 1% chance increase, but it's still there. For 1 million GP, it does pretty much, it's like a very small version of the Look at Dwarves. The next item we're going to talk about again is going to be a ring, but I just need to grab my Ring of Kinship first, because we're going to be heading to the Dungeoneering Reward Shop. So if you have this, then head to the Dungeoneering Reward Shop with the Ring of Kinship, and you are going to need to use some Dungeoneering tokens to get this, but the Ring of Vigor is something that everybody is going to want to grab at some point. Now, you can get a passive version of this once you've done the quest Extinction, but you do want to grab the Ring of Vigor to begin with in the first place, as I can't buy it now because I've obviously already got it. But what it's going to do is every time you use an ultimate, you will save 10% adrenaline. Now, what it doesn't mention on here is it will actually also save 10% adrenaline on a weapon special attack as well, which is insanely good for PvM later on, and also it's really good for early on too, whenever you're using special attacks or ultimates in the first place. This is a ring that you definitely want to take advantage of and grab. It is a switch to begin with before you get the unlock of the passive effect, but it is definitely worth it. You took it on for use like Death Swiftness or something like that, and it will save that adrenaline, and it does make a good difference. Now, the ring itself, if you don't want to use it as a switch, does actually have some decent stats too. I don't think it's going to show me, no it's not, but I'll put it on screen for you guys. So you can camp it if you don't want to switch it. There's not really any reason to use Ring of Death anymore these days, so I would just suggest, if you don't want to switch rings, just camp the Ring of Vigor, get that extra adrenaline when you ever use ultimates or specs or anything like that, and you'll definitely notice a difference. So grab yourself a Ring of Vigor, it is definitely worth the Dungeoneering points. Number 3 is going to take us to Wars of Tree, and while this isn't technically an item, I suppose it does fit the like one equipment slot, so we could call it an item, and it's definitely something worth mentioning anyway. And then come to Wars Shops and Unlocks, you're going to want to unlock all of the DPS Auras, assuming you use these combat styles. Focus on the one that you use. If you only use melee, get the melee one. If you only use range, then make sure you get the range one. If you only use magic, then get the magic one. But Maniacal Aura, Berserker Aura, and Reckless Aura are all of your DPS Auras. What these are going to do is they're going to increase your accuracy and your damage output on the target. They do slightly lower your defense, but the trade-off is 100% worth it. And once you start PvMing with these auras, you are not going to want to use anything else. Now, 25,000 marks of aura is a little bit of work to get, but you will be getting this once you start getting into PvM. It will stack up eventually. I would suggest probably skipping these two, to be fair, the Vampirism one and the Dark Magic, until you've got these other ones here. Unless you badly need Vampirism for 5,000 marks more, it's not too bad, right? But I would definitely skip Dark Magic and just work on getting these three, or the first one of these that match your combat style. These are going to make a massive difference in PVM, and like I said, you're not going to want a PVM without them at that point. Like, people always use them, and then they will reset them with aura resets before they even go to the next boss, because it's just too good. Like, they are just too good. So keep that in mind. Apparently, for future-proofing this video, Necromancy is probably not going to be getting one of these. I don't know for sure, but that's, I think, what I've heard. So if you're looking at this and you're thinking, I need this for Necromancy, I don't think they're going to get one. If they do, then it'll probably be in the War Shop as well, but we'll have to see what happens with that one. Next up is more of an unlock, but there's also going to be an item tied into it as well, and that is going to be the dive ability. So the main thing is going to be the dive ability, which is this here, where you can roll around the ground. This is the lesser version of bladed dive, I suppose, but it is absolutely the better version of bladed dive, in my opinion. You unlock this from completing the Succession quest line. You want to get that done. It's not got a huge requirement to do this, so it's definitely something I would suggest you do. But unlocking dive is so convenient in not even just PvE, but just in playing the game in general. Traveling around, if you're going to do more quests, you can use Surge and then you can use Dive afterwards, and you can travel a lot of distance a lot quicker. In PvM, it's super useful, obviously, because you can dodge mechanics with it. You can go to very precise positioning because it will go to exactly where you click. So dive is definitely something I would suggest you do get. Now, of course, bladed dive is still good, but you'll only really use it in like rack share at this point now. So getting regular dive and going to like be able to precisely go to the tile that you want to go to is very, very useful in PvM and for mobility around the game. Anyway, for clue scrolls, for questing, for skilling, because you're going from different places to different places, it is definitely something you want to get. Now, the next thing that I want to include in this is if you complete Succession, you've also completed the things that are going to get you the upgraded Zamorakian box. So if you come into the Zamorakian Undercity here, and then go into the first house on the right, I can't because I'm going to lose my progress in my dungeon. But go in the first house on the right, I'll put it on screen, you'll get a Zamorakian puzzle box, and in that puzzle box, the Infernal puzzle box, you'll actually get a lot of benefits and upgrades and stuff that stop your adrenaline from draining, and you can put it on your tool belt and stuff like that. It is super useful, and you definitely want to be grabbing that once you've completed Succession as well. As a mid-level player, you're probably going to be heading towards getting some level 99s in the game. Now, not necessarily a lot of them, but some of them. You're probably hitting like your first combat level 99 or something if you're doing a lot of combat, or maybe you've been AFKing one specific skill that you like a lot, and you'll be getting towards a level 99. Now, something to keep in mind is all of the skill capes that you get for level 99 have a benefit to them. They'll all give you some sort of perk. For example, the defense skill cape here, if defense is one of your first 99s, will give you a free sign of life when you die. The archaeology one that I'm using right now gives you an extra sprite focus and the ability to modify relic powers at banks. So they all have different perks on them, and they are things that you should take advantage of. So as a mid-level player, like I say, you will be reaching your first level 99, so you might be close to it. You might be on like 95 or something like that. And it is worth pushing that a little bit extra if the perk is good. For example, the defense skill cape is insanely good, and you'll use this for the rest of the game probably. A lot of other things are really, really useful as well. So offer things like teleports, offer things like extra buffs while doing that skill. So check them out. I'll link the skill capes perks in the description as well, and you can have a look at that and check out the one that you're close to. And if it's worth it, go ahead and grab yourself that cape and take advantage of that perk. The next items I want to talk about are going to be combat related as well, but we're going to talk about the Rune Pouches, which are here, and the Quivers as well, which I'll have to search for because my bank is an absolute mess. So you can get Rune Pouches and Quivers, which are the alternatives for magic and range to store your ammo or your runes in. Rune Pouches can hold your runes. You can get the grasping ones, or you can get the regular ones. I believe grasping ones aren't that much more expensive, and they actually save you runes as well, so you might as well just grab them. Although they may have a level 85 requirement to use them, looking at it, so maybe the other ones are still better. Anyway, the Quiver as well from range is another thing you can get, which can hold 2 lots of ammo in it. So runes will work from your inventory, and you can cast any spells that you have the runes for in all of these. Grasping Rune Pouches can hold 4 lots of runes, and the regular ones can hold 3, and then I think you can get smaller ones as well that hold 2. But you can get the Quivers as well that hold 2 different types of ammo, and these will automatically switch. If you have arrows and bolts in here and you change from a bow to a crossbow, it will automatically select the arrows or the bolts that are in that quiver, but you have to have that quiver equipped to be able to use it. So you'll have to switch the quivers out if you want to switch between different ammos and stuff from more than 2 different ones, which is higher level stuff, so you're probably not going to be worried about this at the mid level anyway. Now, these quivers can be quite expensive in comparison to the rune pouches, but if you do have the money and it's something that you want to invest in, then it is definitely something to consider. But rune pouches themselves are insanely good, not just for combat, but for skilling as well. As you can see here, it will actually give you all the different skilling options that you can use, things like for farming, and if you run Lunas especially, there's a hell of a lot of different skills that you maybe want to take advantage of, and rune pouches are going to make farm runs a lot better because you can fit your runes in, and any other sort of skills that you might want to use magic for as well, you can take advantage of. So rune pouches are definitely something I would invest in, at least one of them. They're about 28 to 30 mil, something like that. Not too bad for a mid-level player, really, so something to definitely consider. But at some point, you're going to want to grab at least 1 or 2 of these. Next up, I'm going to talk about the Kiln Capes. The Kiln Capes are best in slot capes pre-Zuck that you will want to take advantage of on getting a little bit of extra stats. They don't offer any special abilities like the Zuck Capes do, but they do give the best in slot stat boosts for that combat style. So what you'll have to do is complete the fight caves to get the fire cape, and then you can sacrifice the fire cape to be able to get the Kiln Capes. Once you complete the fight kiln, which isn't too difficult these days with the power creep in the game, you could easily do it with mid-level gear. It might take a little bit of practice at first if you're brand new to PVM, but you'll definitely be able to get there. And then once you complete this, you'll be rewarded with one of the Kiln Capes, depending on the combat style that you used throughout the actual fight. But not only are these capes the best in slot to use before the Zuck Capes, which is the high level cape, you will actually use these to upgrade into the Zuck Capes when you do get there. So you will need to get these at some point anyway, so it's definitely worth grabbing them early on and just taking advantage of the stats while you can use them, and then having them ready for when you do get ready to actually do Zuck and then upgrade into them. So grab yourself the Kiln Cape of the combat style that you need, but also there's a hybrid version of the Zuck one. So if you have the time and the effort and the gear to do it, then go ahead and grab all of them, as eventually you likely will want to get the hybrid version from hard mode Zuck, which is a pretty good challenge in the future. Our next one is going to take us back to the same Dungeoneering rewards shop. However, I do have the actual item itself, I believe, in my bank, so I can get that out for you and we can show you this. So you would again just teleport back to the same place with your Ring of Kinship to get to the reward shop. I'll show you that very quickly, and then we'll talk about the actual Charming Imp itself. So the Charming Imp is incredibly useful for anyone wanting to level up their summoning. The reason being is if you go into the shop and you find it for 100,000 tokens, what it's going to do is anytime you kill anything that drops charms on the floor, it will immediately come into your inventory rather than going on the floor. Now you can toggle this to actually like consume the charms as well if you don't need to pick them up anymore, so it's still got something good to do. You can add it to your tool belt, but I can't do that because I need to learn it by a Slayer Master, and I'm a bit of a noob for that sort of stuff. But the Charming Imp itself is still really good. You can wear it or you can just have it in your inventory, and it will collect up all the charms that are dropped for you. So if you're doing things like Elite Dungeons, it's pretty good. If you're doing things like Water Fiends and you want to AFK, then the charms will go directly into your inventory. So if you want to pair this with a Charming Potion as well, keep that in mind. Charm Potions are really freaking useful. The Charming Imp is definitely something that's just doing summoning without a Charming Imp is just a freaking headache. So if you plan on doing summoning to a higher level, which you do want to get 96 at least, you want to get one of these. Trust me, it's worth the 100,000 token grind without a single doubt. Our next item is going to be this Blood Amulet Fury. Now, not only does this thing offer a great stat bonus for a mid-level player, the total thing costs around about 11 million GP to make, but it is also going to offer another benefit as well, which I'm going to show you here, as long as the game will allow it. So you see here, I got a heal for 406 HP. Every now and again, it's going to sap life from the monster, my target, or the monsters around, and it is going to heal me for that. So it keeps you alive a little bit longer in fights. Obviously, I don't have any armor on right now, but it does give you a little bit of extra sustain, and it's just insanely good for the actual stat bonus. For 11 million GP, this thing is absolutely great. You want to buy a regular Amulet of Fury and then a Blood Shard, which I'll put on screen for you, and then you combine them together to create the amulet. Once that's done, it cannot be traded, but it is still a useful thing to have for a hell of a long time, and only costing 11 million GP, you can't really go wrong. Finally, we're going to talk about the weapons that you probably want to focus on getting towards the mid part of the game. Maybe you're getting into Slayer, maybe you're just starting to do some very low PVM like God Wars 1, God Wars 2, and the Arc Glacier in normal mode, for example, and you're looking at which weapons and stuff you should be using. I mentioned in the last video for low levels that you absolutely want to focus on your weapons before your gear, and this still stands true for the rest of the game. Great weapons to aim for at this part of the game is the tier 85 weapons. These offer you tier 90 accuracy, which is insanely important and makes a massive difference to your experience in combat, trust me, but they also offer it for a fraction of the price of getting level 90 weapons. This is because they usually drop from places like God Wars Dungeon 2 rather than places like the Calphite King or Araxi or Virago. Tier 85 weapons will last you a long time as well, taking you all the way until you either reach tier 90 stuff that you want to get, or tier 92 depending on if you want to skip it or not. That being said, the tier 85 weapons such as the Elder Wand and the Elder Orb, which I'm putting on screen, and yes, I know it's like Psyweir or Swear or something like that, I just can't freaking pronounce it, and then also the melee version, the Blade of Nymora and the Blade of Avarice, and then for the range version, you've got the Shadow Glaives from Greg. These all offer tier 90 accuracy, but tier 80 damage, but you will want that trade-off. It is definitely worth it. The tier 90 accuracy, especially at this part of the game, is so freaking important, and you will notice the difference big time. So if you're looking on upgrading your weapons and your gear, you should definitely focus on getting these for the combat style that you're in, as they are definitely a good goal to set. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this one. There's 10 items that you absolutely are going to want to grab at some point along your journey as a mid-level player in the game. What do you guys reckon? Did you find this useful? Do you agree with this list? Is there some things that you wish were on here instead? Again, I was aiming for 10. I was writing this list and I just could have thought of so many different things. It was unbelievable. So if you want part 2, mid-level players seem to need a lot of stuff. So if you do want a part 2, let me know in the comments. Also, drop any down in the comments that you thought I should have included. Channel members and Patreon subs, thank you all so much for supporting the channel that bit extra. I appreciate it very much. Your names will have been on screen during the outro. If anybody is interested in getting some content that is not on YouTube itself, it is uploaded onto my Patreon, you can chuck $1 over there and support the channel a little bit more, but also get access to over, I think it's 10 or 11 videos right now that will not be posted here. They're Patreon only content, and I plan on posting quite a bit more there as well. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I will catch you all in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye.